Hey, one of the primary reasons that I'm taking my family out of here is because of the public school system. And if I would have had to send my children to their neighborhood schools, we would have had to speak Spanish in order for him to go there. When we get things from the school district, it comes in Spanish. I speak English, I want things in English, and I demanded that our school not cater to Spanish speaking. They have to learn English.
California is ranked among the worst public schooling systems in America and is annually in the bottom 20% of schools nationwide. But the good news is, teachers in California are one of the highest paid in the nation. Despite California ranking 48th of 50 states in math and 49th in reading, the teachers are being compensated pretty well. In 1992, the LA Times wrote an article about A.G. Curry Middle School in Tustin, California, celebrating the diversity by flying 65 flags of students' home countries. The principal said he planned to turn Curry Middle School into a model multicultural school. By 2010, A.G. Curry Middle School was 88% Hispanic, and that same year the school scored a D- in math, a C in language, and a C+ in science for an overall grade of a D+. California hosts 12% of the population and has over 30% of the nation's welfare recipients. With so many leeches on the system, left-wingers have decided to keep them happy. They must spend more because that's the only way people will vote for them, if they get free stuff in return. California spends $859 million per year on imprisoning illegal immigrants. Los Angeles alone spends more than $1.6 billion a year on illegal aliens, $600 million on welfare, $550 million on public safety, $500 million on healthcare. In 2003, 70% of the 2,300 babies born in Stockton's San Joaquin General Hospital were anchor babies. By 2013, the city of Stockton was bankrupt. Protesters packed the San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors meeting demanding that vacant positions at the hospital to be filled immediately because it was so understaffed. Trauma patients were sometimes being directed to Modesto, California, which delayed them receiving medical treatment. San Joaquin General Hospital CEO said an increase in gunshot victims has led to the shortage, with 200 patients being treated per month as opposed to 110 patients per month in past years. Despite illegal immigration sucking money from California, delusional liberals in California say illegal immigration makes the state stronger. After several decades of Democratic control in the state legislature, California now faces an unfunded pension liability of no less than several $100 billion. The state is also experiencing unprecedented middle-class flight, skyrocketing housing costs that are 250% more than the national average. Businesses of all kinds have been fleeing the state due to everything from excessive regulations, high taxes, or mandatory $15 minimum wages. California has horrible schools and regularly among the highest unemployment rates in the country. From 2007 to 2010, the number of children living in poverty in California grew by 30%, and 1 out of 5 children in California grew up in poverty. This is what Democrats have done to California. But Democrats have solutions for their money woes. It's a plan that is a regular go-to for liberals when they overspend to try and win votes by giving away free stuff, and that plan is taxing the rich.
She's called for upping the top tax brackets in America to 80% or more.
The wealthiest 1%. I would like to tax them at higher rates across the board on their salary, on their investments, and also on what they're passing to the future generation.
Yeah, well, they just passed by a ballot initiative one of the largest tax increases in history.
Tax the rich.
They've increased taxes by $50 billion. So, yes, suddenly it's going to look a lot more balanced there. But they're also lying. I mean, they're talking about revenue projections that will not come true. It's an annual tradition in California. Your budget looks balanced in January when you propose it. And then when the revenues actually start coming in, you say, oh, there's a shortfall. And that shortfall could be $8 billion. It has been as high as $30 billion in recent years. We'll see that happen again.
So clearly, California has serious economic problems. The state has the lowest credit rating of any other state. It's falling deeper into debt. So is this just a reality that they need to face, that deep cuts need to be made because they can no longer spend beyond its means?
We should be getting a more equitable system of taxation and taxing the wealthier at rates that are commensurate with other states. We need to be able to raise revenue in an equitable fashion in the state. Californians actually pay a lower tax base than most other states.
Where the top marginal tax rate in California is what?
13.3%.
And in Texas?
0.
0. That would seem to be an advantage. That'll even get Freeman's attention.
I think it would get anyone's attention.
And California has had an issue with its revenue, that is, raising enough revenue to provide the services that Californians need.
This is another part of the problem. Notice this college professor's explanation for the problem, that California has a revenue problem. By revenue, she means taxes. But California's problems are not because they don't tax enough or that they don't tax the rich their fair share.
That California has the most progressive tax system in the United States.
we do ask those who make the most money to pay the highest percentage of taxes.
California is among the highest tax states in the country. California has the highest personal income tax of any other state in America, significantly higher than any other state. The Federation of Tax Administrators ranks California as the top taxer with a 12.3% income tax, and if you make over $1 million in the state of California, the income tax rate jumps to 13.3%, nearly 30% higher than the number 2 state of Oregon. The top 1% of earners in California account for over 40% of income tax revenue. California is 4th highest in the nation in per capita corporate income tax revenues. California is the highest sales tax than any other state. California is the highest gasoline tax than any other state. California even taxes carbon emissions. California's problems are not the result of not taxing enough or the rich not paying their fair share. California does not have a revenue problem. California has a spending problem. Turns out giving away free stuff to people in exchange for votes can be very expensive.
I think the politicians want to get reelected, and the state government workers want to get as much as they can before the whole house of cards comes tumbling down. The problem is California is Greece, the Greece of America. There are too many people riding in the wagon, not enough people pulling the wagon. Now they've raised taxes, so you're going to see the productive people leaving the state and more people living off the government, voting for more government, but sooner or later, nobody's there to pay the bills. It's too expensive to create jobs. It's too expensive to finance a bloated workforce. It's too expensive to maintain all these pensions. But by the time you reach that level, if more than 50% of the voters in your state are somehow riding on the wagon, are either government welfare beneficiaries, government workers, or the retired living off government, how do you ever change? And that's what makes me so pessimistic. A beautiful state that I think is being ruined by big government.
California has failing infrastructure all over, with an estimated $130 billion backlog in needed infrastructure repairs. California just passed another tax increase, a 12 cents per gallon gas tax and 20 cents per gallon on diesel fuel, while also increasing the vehicle licensing fee from $25 to $175 per year, depending on the value of your vehicle, the average fee increasing by $48 per year. California's general fund has increased by $36 billion over the past 6 years, and yet there's no money for infrastructure. The money they should have spent on infrastructure, they spent on their constituents and voters in the form of government handouts. The bad business climate created by liberals forces businesses to flee. With less jobs, unemployment rates become high. Importing immigrants from third world countries who are largely uneducated, unskilled, and speak little to no English makes employing them difficult, so they live off the taxpayer. Never-ending welfare benefits given to the poor provide just enough to get by, and in return generate loyalty to Democratic politicians because the poor depend on them for their income. So voting Democrat is essential to their livelihood. Modern liberalism, as exemplified in the state of California, is a giant Ponzi scheme, which inevitably ends in financial collapse. And when that collapse happens, they won't say it's because of government, they will say it's because of capitalism and greed. And so in order to save us from greedy capitalists, we need more government control. In a previous video, I covered how liberals' so-called compassion destroyed the economy, and after it happened, they didn't attribute the failure to left-wing politicians implementing compassionate policies that ignore basic economic principles. They say it's because government didn't do enough, and that will always be the answer when Democrats in government ruin their surroundings. The Ponzi scheme is Democrats win votes by appealing to the emotions of the populace. They champion to help the poor, the sick, and people from third world countries, and the way they help them is by giving them free stuff: welfare benefits, free schooling, scholarships, free health care, increasing minimum wages, and appealing to each and every union, giving them more money, more benefits in exchange for votes. But all these promises cost money. But the government doesn't know how to make money. Government only knows how to take it. And as soon as their voter base wants something else, they are perfectly content to use your money in return for loyalty from their voters. And if you don't like it, you're a racist, sexist, homophobic, misogynist, ableist, Islamophobic, xenophobic bigot who hates the poor and sick. This is what liberalism creates: a system that rewards the unproductive at the expense of the productive, and with never-ending mouths to feed and votes to win, they make more promises that cost more money, and those who have the money and run the businesses that provide the jobs end up leaving, and then you have a failed state.